everybody. So we're back for another Q&A, video number 3, and I'm going to be answering 5 questions that ChatGPT made for me. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Let's go with the first one. If you could have a conversation with any philosopher or psychologist, living or dead, who would it be and why? I think, well, I'm really interested in the zodiac, so I think I would really want to talk to somebody that would have like the same type of ideas on the zodiac as I do. And I think from psychologists and philosophers, that person could possibly be Carl Jung. So, I mean, Carl Jung is one of my favorite like authors, but I wouldn't say he's like my favorite one. My favorite one is Sartre, but I would like to talk to him just so he can kind of get more into this whole like relationship. You know, there's knowledge, and then there's knowledge of knowledge, or knowledge of what you can do with that knowledge. Like basically you know something and you can apply it to different situations, right? And I think that's the knowledge that I'm looking for. Like I already know this, and I want to know like what, you know, connect the dots. I want to know what other areas I can connect or apply this in. I'll give you an example. There's this notion, I think it's called, in Spanish it's called foda. In English, I think it's strengths, weaknesses, threats, and potential, or something like that. It's basically like 4 areas where you write down, like for anything. It could be for yourself, for your business. Like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And then what are my threats and what are my opportunities? I think they're threats and opportunities, something like that. So then, I think everybody knows this. We learned this in high school, right? Where it's like you put what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your opportunities, what are your threats. Which I think the first 2, strengths and weaknesses, are internal, and opportunities and threats are external, right, from the environment, like those things that you don't control. And we all know that. But then there's another, you know, and this is what I mean by knowing what to do with knowledge. You know, you have that piece of information, but then there you can cross-reference it. So you can say, okay, how can I combine a weakness with an opportunity? Oh, that's pretty cool, right? How can I combine a strength with a weakness, or a strength with a threat, right? An external threat. How can I combine a strength with a strength? How can I combine a weakness with a threat, right? That's hard, because you have to use like a weakness internally that you have, like in your business, with a threat from the outside, right? Like what? So that you get creative, but that is true, right? And it's there. You just need somebody to tell you, hey, cross-reference this, and make up like strategic plans, right? Like it's called a foda in Spanish. I don't really remember the name in English, but I have one of these, right, for like my videos and stuff like that. So yeah, I would like to talk maybe with Carl Jung, so he could expand on the unconscious collective, and also on his ideas of, you know, masculine, feminine, maybe the zodiac too. I don't really know if he knew about the zodiac. I haven't read anything on him knowing about the zodiac. That would be interesting to know. But since he was into esoteric teachings, I would assume that he knows about that too. All right, let's go with question number 2. How do you think advancements in technology and artificial intelligence will shape the future of philosophy and psychology? Oh, well, I think they're already talking about recreating, or actually like writing books, writing texts based on, like you feed AI all the works of Carl Jung, right? And then you tell AI like produce something new, something that Carl Jung would produce today. So it could get crazy, right? Like I was listening to this Tupac album, where I guess they fed AI all the Tupac songs, and then AI makes like the music that Tupac would be writing about, I guess today, or not today, but just like new music that he would be making. So I think it has the potential. Well, first of all, technology has had the potential for all of us to basically have access to all of this information. Because I think back in the day, like in the old days, like when all these people were alive, excuse me, they didn't really have that type of reach, right? Like they would print books, and if you didn't have your hands on books, or if you didn't have the knowledge to understand the books, you were basically fucked, right? You didn't have that information. So technology has made it accessible for anybody to just access all of this philosophical, psychological knowledge. Um, and as for artificial intelligence, it has the capacity to reproduce new text, right? So this is all like very on the surface. But how do I think that those type of like technological advancements and artificial intelligence will shape it? Well, it does have the capacity to shape it, but there would have to be a long time would have to transpire or pass before they could really shape philosophy and psychology, right? I also think that these ideas in psychology and philosophy are mainly divulged or are known through the mainstream, right? Through the common ear, through the ear to ear, mouth to ear type of information. So there's not a lot of control you can have it unless you do like some mass marketing for a couple of years, and then people will just have those ideas in their heads. Like this idea, which I now see every day more and more as kind of like fabricated, which is like work hard for what you want. Um, there's a bunch of ideas out there that are kind of like that, like respect other people, like be do the right thing, be a good person, you know, virtuous ethics, basically. Okay, number three, if you were to create your own philosophical or psychological theory, what would it be focused on and what insights would it offer? So I'm a person I would consider myself mildly disciplined, and I think one of my like schools of thought would be based on, well, once they made us like create this type of business or school, I guess, and you had to do the mission statement, the vision statement, and your values. What were your core values? So my core values were integrity, which basically is very simple. If you say you're gonna do something, do it, right? Commitment, which is like loyalty. It implies loyalty. It implies being there, you know, and benevolence, which is basically acting on good faith, being a good person, right? Not doing bad things. So I think the main one for me in that one is commitment, and commitment goes hand in hand with integrity. I mean, it's kind of like you do what you say you're gonna do, and you actually like work hard to do it. Now I know this is tied to what I just said about this like cliche idea of work hard, um, but I think this is more on a personal level. I think if you work hard and you're doing, what you like to do and you're disciplined about it, you're gonna be good. You're gonna live a good life. So I think my theory would be basically on being disciplined, being organized. But yeah, it's not the typical cliche like just work hard like randomly. Like you need to focus that energy, that intention. Like actually make a calendar, have a plan for the things that you want to do throughout your day, throughout your week. Be structured in that, be organized. Um, and of course it would have a fundamentalist idea of free will, like you're basing everything maybe on the unconscious, so if you feel like doing this, do it. If you feel like doing that, do it, right? Like follow your instinct, follow your intuition, but organize it, right? Don't just simply be doing like a bunch of random things and then procrastinating and then starting things and not finishing them. Like you can have your own creative endeavors, but actually carry them out, right? Actually see them through, whatever they may be, or if they need to change and innovate, change them, but carry them out effectively. mm, Four, how do you see the concept of mindfulness, not mindfulness, evolving in the digital age, and what impact does it have on mental health and well-being? Well, mindfulness is this idea where you're basically full of your mind, right? So it's paradoxical, right? It's like the Tao. You have your head full, but at the same time you empty it. It's basically not having stimuli around you, right? So you're by yourself. You're thinking about your life, thinking about your things, which I think in the digital era or the digital age, it's harder to do. Now, the digital era has offered us a lot of information, right? A lot of knowledge and insight into ideas, but we have yet to develop them. And in order to develop them, we have to disconnect from technology for a while and just reflect and ponder and think, right? So I think it's harder for mindfulness to evolve, but if it does evolve, it's going to be great because you're going to have a lot more information to work with when you for example meditate and you get into that mindfulness type of state, right? Now, what impact does it have on mental health and well-being? Well, it deteriorates mental health because they say the connection of basically your emotions is through the social realm. So you connect with emotions when you connect with people, right? And the digital era, paradoxically, as it brings us closer, it also pulls us farther apart. It makes us more indifferent. It makes us arrogant. It makes us assume that we know things, right? Because we have like the information at our disposal. So it makes us carefree. It makes us indifferent. And this deteriorates society, like the real tangible society, like one-on-one face-to-face communication, and hence our well-being, right? So yeah, I think I was watching this video where it said something about the digital era and something like that, and it was actually saying that we're an experiment, right? And I found that idea fascinating because sometimes I see synchronicities, right? I think they're called synchronicities, which is like when you always see the number seven, or you always see that you always look at the clock when it's like 7:11 or 11:11 or whatever. But to me, it happens with like ideas. I saw the idea of experiment a couple times in the last couple of days. I've been seeing this idea where basically, I find it kind of fascinating where the experiment, everything you do is kind of like an experiment. So if you make a decision on this or that, and this came from the movie which I just did a review for on Poor Things, where they're stuck there with no money, right? Excuse me. And they have no money, they have no place to go, they're stranded somewhere. And the girl looks at it like an experiment. He says, okay, this is an experiment, right? What do you do now that you have no money, that you have no means, right? This is an experiment. So the social media thing, the digital era is like an experiment because one, we don't know where we're going, and two, we actually don't even know what we're doing like in the moment, right? We know where we come from, but we don't know where we're at. We don't know what this means, right? We just kind of see that it's not that good, but we also see that it's beneficial and it is good. And then yeah, because it's more of more of good things, more of bad things, but we don't really know where we're going, right? We may assume that we're headed towards like machines controlling humans, or like mental health deteriorating, or like the Wall-E world where everybody's fat and just sitting around on these like things that are carrying you around, and you're just sitting there like overeating, overstimulated. But we don't know with certainty, so it's an experiment, right? Just like life is in general. Like it's like all these ideas that are I guess that have always been around for humanity are now magnified, are amplified with technology, right? So it's like before it used to be like your local tribe, and now it's like the world, but we're still in that local tribe. Like it's like our world, right? Our little world in our universe or whatever. Okay, question 5 and the last one. If you can explore one uncharted aspect of the human mind or consciousness, what would it be and what do you hope to discover? Oh, maybe memory. Right now I've been kind of reading a little bit on memory and how Well, this guy was basically saying how intelligence is correlated with memory, right? Like you're basically judged. Your intelligence is how well you remember things, right? So let's say you're exposed to all of the information, right? Like a group of 10 students are all exposed to the same information. So you've seen it. All 10 students have seen the information. Let's say they were all paying attention genuinely, and they all see that information. And then after you show them the information, you test them, right? Like in a quiz, pop quiz, test them. Who remembers this? Who remembers that? Who remembers this? And then the people that remember it best are going to be considered the most intelligent, right? But everybody saw it, right? The argument is that everybody saw it, so it's in everybody's heads. All of the information is in everybody's heads. So why do some people remember it better than others, right? That's what we call intelligence. So memory is correlated with the unconscious, and that's why I find that it's an uncharted aspect, because we say there are other ways of learning, like more artistic expressions, or maybe even there's an unconscious way of learning where, like, if you ask me right now what was the information, I won't remember, but later on or later down the road, I can probably use that information in a different situation, right? So how come memory works like that? How come sometimes it'll work in favor of you, like, yeah, remember this, but not these things, right? And the things that memory does not allow you to remember are in your unconscious, right? Like they're there because you've been exposed to them, so they've entered your mind, right? Like subliminal information, but you don't remember it consciously, but you can be affected by it unconsciously, right? Like it can warp your attitudes, your beliefs, like in ways that you probably wouldn't even consider like relevant, but they're very important. So yeah, memory has always, they say there are different types of memory, like working memory, the memory that you're working with all of the time, long-term, short-term memory. There's episodic memory, which is the memory of narration, right? Like first I woke up, then I took a shower, then I went to work. There's semantic memory, which is like concepts, like what does ambiguous mean, right? Like it's a conflict of two opposites or whatever. And I don't remember there's implicit memory and explicit memory. Let me get back to you on that one because I don't really remember it. But there's different types of memory and they're all really interesting. And, there's mechanical memory, automatic memory. I think that's implicit memory, which is like, after you've been driving for so long, you just know how to drive, so like you don't think about, I'm going to turn on my car, I'm going to look both ways before heading off, brake, stop, go, you don't think about that stuff because it's implicit. And eventually all of your knowledge, when you master it, it becomes implicit memory. There's explicit memory, which is, when you're first learning something, like when you're first learning how to drive a car, or when you're first learning how to speak a language, a new language, you're explicit, right? You're like, okay, this is this, and you have to think about it a bunch of times, right? Yeah, so I think memory, I would probably get into it, but like I would like again elaborate on that, like how does that connect to other things? What knowledge of the knowledge, right? Application in different areas of that knowledge. That would be interesting. All right, so that's all I got for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit like, subscribe, all that shit, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.